today I'm going to teach you how to tie a little bit simpler version of the Sex Dungeon fly pattern. Crazy name, but it's a super effective fly and it's caught me some really big trout over the years. But tying it so many times, I've kind of found that there's a little bit easier way to tie it that uses a little less materials. And to anyone new to fly tying out there, this is a great video for you because I'm going to teach you how to tie a little bit simpler fly. And it uses less material, so if you don't quite have your fly tying inventory stocked yet, no worries, because this fly uses as minimal materials as possible. So let's get into what I'm using for this fly. I'm going to be using 2 hooks. I've got Moonlit hooks right here. I'm going to be using a size 8 and a size 4. And then I've got some orange deer hair right here. And then brown dubbing, some orange squirrel tail. And then I'm also going to be using some red dumbbell eyes right there. And that's pretty much it. That's all you need to tie this fly. I am going to add in a little bit extra though, just because I like the way it looks. But you don't need these if you don't have these materials. All I'm going to add in with it is some tan deer hair to kind of add a little bit more to the head of the fly. And I'm also going to be using some rubber legs as well. Alright, let's get tying. So I'm going to add on the size number 8 hook. This is going to be the tail. I'm going to add a nice little thread base down. Get it on there nice and firm. Then we're going to take our squirrel tail. I'm going to part it where it's about the length of the hook plus just a little bit extra, because you can always trim it down later. Then go to the back of the hook and we're just going to tie that in. Give it a few nice securing wraps and boom. I've also got this cool material holder right here as well, which is super handy. Just hooks my material on, holds it while I do my dubbing loop. So now we're just going to add a dubbing loop. Make it nice and big. This is going to really add to the body of the fly. Now you can also use your whip finish too. I just hook my dubbing loop. Let's see if I can get it there. Hook my dubbing loop through the loop. Just like that. And then I can use that. Just use my whip finish to do my dubbing loop. Okay, we're going to load this fly up. Don't be shy on the dubbing. We're really going to stack it on there. Alright, that should be good for this portion. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to turn it up. Add it in those twists. I guess I should have put a little knot in here. I'm tying on the Moonlit Nirvana vise, and it's a pretty sweet vise. If you guys are looking to upgrade, check this one out. It retails for about, I think, 150 bucks. I've got a fly tying review on it too. I'll link it in the description, but it works really well. Okay, we're just going to rotate that on the body all the way to the front of the eye of the hook. Making sure I'm kind of working it back with my fingers. And this last part I'll just kind of do by hand. And snip it. There we go. And then now that I got that snipped, I'll add a couple more securing wraps. Now I'm just going to take that squirrel tail, and I'm going to fold all those fibers down. And I'm going to fold the squirrel tail over the top. And I like to trap a little bit of the squirrel tail down up by the head, but not a lot, so I'm going to part a little bit so I'm not trapping the whole thing. About right there. I'm going to do 2 loose wraps. Pull the squirrel tail tight and pull the thread down nice and tight. Really crank it on there. 1 more to secure it, and then I'm going to add 1 more in front. Actually, I'll do 2 more in front. And that really locks it down. Then you just snip off the squirrel tail. And then I'm going to add in some rubber legs. But yeah, there's a lot of vices out there right now on the internet. And I definitely think this one is the best bang for the buck. Man, I'm struggling with these rubber legs today. There we go. Okay, build up a little bit of a head, and then we just whip finish. And then I'm going to add a little bit of UV glue. If you guys haven't gotten yourself some UV glue yet, head down to your flag shop and get some. I put it off buying for years, just use like standard head cement, and oh my gosh, I love UV glue so much more. I wish I would have bought it years ago. Okay, let that soak into the material a little bit, and then we'll just cure it with the UV light. And then I'm going to take some Velcro, and then we're going to really work that body up. Get all those fibers out. I want this to be super puffy. Just like that. Okay, that's all set. Now we're going to start on the front hook. Now we're going to add on the size 4. Loosen that up a little bit. Boom. Take our thread, and we're going to start adding on a nice firm base. Leave a little bit in the eye of the hook. So that's where we're going to do our deer hair. First step, we're going to add on those dumbbell eyes. I'm going to do it about the width of my thumb. Tie on a few diagonal, and then crisscross the wraps. And then I got that on, and I'm just going to slide it underneath. Just like that. Make sure it's nice and tight. And I'm really just going to start wailing on those wraps. Do a little over-under. Okay. Got some wraps on there. Now I'll tighten them all down by kind of doing these wraps in the center. And pulling them tight each wrap. And that really locks it down. I'm using that GSP thread. Super strong stuff. Alrighty. Okay, that's all set up. Now it's time to add in the articulation. I guess the one thing I forgot to mention at the start is I'm going to be using, you can use wire, backing. This is just a nylon braid. That's what I'm going to use to make this fly articulated. I forgot to mention that at the start. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this nylon braid, take my trailer fly right here, pass it through, just like that. And then I'm also going to grab, so I got that through right there on the tail. Then I'm also going to grab some of these little beads, just plastic beads. People use them ice fishing a lot. I'll add those in there to kind of help keep the material from getting tangled with the nylon braid. Lost my train of thought there for a second. Okay, got those through. Got my 2 beads. I'm going to lay them, kind of size it up. I still want some gap. I don't want it to be like super tight. The beads are pushing into the side. I want it to be pretty loose on there. So the beads just barely are off the back a little bit. And I'll add in a few wraps just to kind of hold it in place while I get the adjustments. Okay, I'm going to say about right there is good. I'm going to tighten them down all the way up to the dumbbell eyes. And I'm going to pass these over the dumbbell eyes right there. And then pull them up underneath. And then tighten it underneath the fly. And then really just crank down on that. And then I like to build up a little thread base around the joint right there where the right on the edge of where the bead is and the nylon braid, just so that if a fish pulls it really hard one way, it's not snapping the line in a weak spot. Okay, got that on there. Now we're going to take our orange dubbin again. We're going to make sure we got a nice clean flake. Boom. We're going to add that on. Now I'm going to make it so that the leather touches the leather on the last fly. It's about right there. And then I'm going to part it. And then do a few securing wraps. Nice and tight. Okay. Now you've seen this part before. We're just going to add on some dubbin. So I'm going to do another dubbing loop. To do a dubbing loop, I just pull a loop down, lay it on there, so now I got 2 strands like that. And then you're just going to twist your bobbin over it, and then a few more straps, and now you got a nice little loop. Oh man, I'm running out of thread on this spool. And we're just going to load it up. Now I load it up even thicker on this part, because this is towards the front of the fly, and this imitates a sculpin. Sculpin are pretty thick towards the front, barely skinny towards the back. And so I want to make sure that the front of this fly is got a lot more body than the back of the fly. So don't be shy on the dubbing right here. Really stack it up. Also, if you're hearing cat sounds, my cat just walked through. She's hanging out in here with me. Okay, and I'm just going to crank it nice and tight. Just keep twisting it until you get a nice spin on that dubbing so it really holds it in. Yeah, this little holder right here works amazing for holding the material. That is quite handy. The funny thing is, when I got my Nirvana V2 vise, or I guess I should say it's my wife's vise, so when I got my wife's Nirvana V2 vise, it came with that, and we didn't really know what it was, so we actually didn't use it for like a few months until I saw on their website and it said material holder. I'm like, oh, that's what that's for. So got it on here now, and it is handy. This is actually, the one I'm tying on right now is their older vise. But they sent me the new clamp, so I got the updated clamp. So the clamp on here is the same one that's on the Nirvana V2 vise. And it is a very nice clamp. It locks the hook in and it does not move. Alright, I'm just working this all the way up to the front of the hook. Or not the front of the hook, but the eyes. Okay, boom. Got that in front. Secure that down nice and good. Now what we want to do is we're going to take that material. We're going to fold all that dubbing down just like we did on the tail. Fold that over the top. Make sure we're behind the eyes with our thread. Lay 2 loose wraps down. Pull tight. And then clamp that down nice and firm. Okay. And we'll trim that off. Okay, now at the front of the fly we're going to do something a little bit different. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to add the legs in before I forget. I always forget to add in legs. And you can really tie the legs in however you want. Just make sure they're on both sides of the body. I like to kind of make a little X on the legs with the thread, pull them to the side, and then do a securing wrap to kind of hold them on the side there. Okay, now I got those on. We're going to do a dubbing loop again, a little bit smaller dubbing loop. This dubbing loop doesn't need to be as big. About right there should be good. And then secure the thread. Now we're going to take a section of our squirrel tail. I'm going to do probably about 1.5 inches. Snip that off. Just get about 1.5 inches of that. Add on my whip finish to my thing, and we're going to pinch. This part's kind of complicated. We're going to pinch the leather on this. So, well, we're going to pinch the actual material. So the material is going to be on one side of the dubbing loop, and then the leather is going to be on the other side. I know that's kind of confusing. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to pull it through the dubbing loop, making sure as many fibers are out the other end as possible. Should be good about right there. Slide it up a little bit. Now this is kind of the tricky part. I'm going to take some scissors and we're just going to hold the dubbing loop tight without twisting it. And we're going to snip the leather off as we go down the line. Now that we got just the squirrel tail on there with no leather, I'm going to do my dubbing loop. We're going to start wrapping it tight. Make sure this is really tight because that's what's going to lock those in. And look how fluffy that looks. This makes the fly look really good. And then we'll just secure that tag end down. Now, if you guys don't have the stuff to tie an articulated fly, maybe you just want to do a single hooked one, or maybe you're not good at deer hair, or you don't have any deer hair. I do have a simpler version on this fly. This is it right here. It's a single hook pattern. It just uses a cone bead. Same way I tied the tail, just with the cone bead. I've got another fly tying tutorial on this one as well. I'll link it in the description. But this is a great fly as well if you don't want to work with deer hair or articulation. Okay, got that on there. Now it's time for the fun part. We're going to add on our deer hair. So I'm going to take a pinch of the orange deer hair, snip it off, about that much. And I'm going to add it into the deer hair stacker right here. All stacked up. Fluff out any loose fibers or any fluff. Okay, I'm going to size it up the length. I want it just a little bit past the eye of the hook. Say about right there should be good. And then I'm going to snip off the ends. This part always makes a mess. Make my thread behind the eye of the hook. Put that just right on top. And I'm going to twist it, my thread, that way the loop lays over my fingers. I just barely want to trap those fibers down. Just like that. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take our thumb and we're going to push these fibers down because we want them to the sides. This is what's going to flare out and kind of make it look more like a sculpin. Really just shoving these sides down, working it to the edges. And we'll go on the other side, and I'm going to take a small pinch of deer hair. You don't need a lot. And I don't even stack it for this part. This is really just to help it hold down, or this is just to kind of make the bottom look cleaner. One wrap, pull it tight, boom, tie it off in the front. That'll just kind of clean up the bottom. And then for the front, I'm going to add on a stack of this tan deer hair. And we are going to deer stack, or use the deer hair stacker. Fluff all the junk out of it. And I'm going to lay that right down on top. Two wraps, and then pull it tight. I'm going to work this to the front. Okay, and I'm going to add on one more patch of orange in the front. I really hate working with deer hair, but it makes for a really good fly. And when you strip it through the water, it stops your fly abruptly because of all the surface area. Makes that tail really like kind of shoot forward and give it a lot of movement. Okay. Lay that down right there. I'm going to do a few loose wraps and spin that on there. Alright, and then I'm just going to whip finish. Pull that nice and tight. This thread is so hard to cut. There it is. We'll put a little bit of glue in the front and we'll cure it. Okay, this is the fun part. This is where we actually get to sculpt the head. It's pretty satisfying. Okay, now I got all that. I'm going to fold all the material out of the way, and I'm going to show you a cool trick you can do with a straw. So I'm going to cut this about right to that length. Also, I wouldn't use your fly tying scissors to do this. You don't dull them. These ones are already pretty dull, so it is what it is. Snip it right down the center. So now you can kind of fold it. I'm going to take all that material, just kind of fold it up. And now that keeps everything kind of tucked in the back while I start trimming it. Okay, so first thing I do when I trim it is I'm going to kind of put my fingers on the side and I'm going to fluff all that up. I like to use some curved scissors. A lot of people use razor blades. I've never been very good at the razor blade technique, so I usually just use the scissors. I'm going to do a nice curved hook right over, just like that. And I just kind of keep flaring that up and just keep cutting down into it until I get the shape of the head I want. Go underneath, same thing. Just gotta make sure I get it all the way down flush. Then I do a little bit in the front of the eye of the hooks. Now you can really trim this to however you want. This is just how I do it. And I'm really just sculpting it. Make it an art piece. The more you do this too, the better you get at it. When I first started tying deer hair heads, it looked pretty bad. But the more I did it, the better I got. And then I'm going to undo this real quick. I like to unhook it and then just kind of hold it in my hand. Makes it a little bit easier to see both sides and trim. Okay. Now there's a saying that you don't want to try to make it as perfect as possible because the more you take off, you can't really put that back on. So once it looks pretty decent, I just leave it at that, because if I start trying to perfect it, I end up making it worse. So I'm going to call that good right there. Clamp that back in. Now I do have a few more stuff I got to do. I've got to fluff up that fly a little bit. Get all that dubbing out. We want that body nice and thick. Just like that. And then we'll trim up the legs. And boom. That right there, that's the fly. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope this fly helps you catch some really big trout. And if you guys want to learn the tie a little bit simpler version, if you guys want to learn the tie this fly right here, see if it focuses. If you guys want to learn the tie this, where I just use a cone head bead instead of using a deer hair head, check this video out right here, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.